The butler opened the mansion's marble doors as Aunt Serena shoved 10-year-old Amara onto the street. "This house deserves better than you," she sneered, slamming the gates. Neighbors in their luxury cars slowed to watch. None knew the orphan clutched papers proving she owned everything, including that mansion. 3 months earlier, Amara had stood in this same driveway holding Mr. Whitmore's hand. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawn, and the fountain in the center of the circular drive sparkled like diamonds. He was old, kind, and tired. His fingers trembled when he buttoned her coat, taking twice as long as it should have. He told her she was safe now. He told her she had a home. He said it 3 times, as if repeating it would make it more true. 2 weeks later, he died in his sleep. The funeral was small but expensive, white roses everywhere, a string quartet playing something soft and sad. Amara sat in the front row, wearing a black dress the housekeeper had bought her from the department store downtown. The fabric was stiff and scratched her neck. She didn't cry. She'd cried enough when her mother died in that small hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and failure. When the caseworker with the tired eyes told her Mr. Whitmore was her only living connection. When she learned that connection meant her mother had been his niece, and he'd searched for Amara for 2 years after her mother's death, hiring investigators and checking orphanages across 3 states. Aunt Serena arrived the day after the funeral in a town car with tinted windows. She wore a burgundy suit and gold jewelry that caught the light when she moved, bracelets clinking together like wind chimes. She told the staff she was Mr. Whitmore's cousin from his mother's side. She told the lawyer she'd been named temporary guardian in private conversations before his death. She smiled at Amara with teeth too white and said, "You poor thing, don't worry, I'll take care of everything." Her perfume was overwhelming, thick and floral, the kind that lingers in a room long after someone leaves. The first week, Serena moved into the master bedroom. She had the staff remove all of Mr. Whitmore's personal items, his reading glasses, his books, the photographs of Amara's mother that sat on the nightstand. They went into boxes that disappeared into the basement. The second week, she fired the head housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, who'd been kind to Amara and made her hot chocolate in the mornings. Mrs. Patterson cried when she packed her things, hugged Amara tight in the kitchen, and whispered, "Be strong, baby girl." By the third week, Amara was no longer eating at the dining table. "You'll take your meals in the kitchen," Serena said, not looking up from her wine glass, examining her manicured nails. "It's more appropriate for someone in your position." Amara's bedroom became the smallest guest room on the 3rd floor, the one usually reserved for staff overflow during holiday parties. The walls were beige and water-stained in one corner. The window faced the service alley where delivery trucks idled at dawn. The furniture was mismatched, a narrow bed with a thin mattress, a rickety desk, a lamp that flickered. At night, she could hear Serena laughing downstairs with guests, their voices floating up through the heating vents like smoke, crystal glasses clinking, high heels clicking on marble. She pulled the thin blanket over her head and thought about Mr. Whitmore's voice, the way he called her "little scholar" when she showed him her homework, the way he'd saved a seat for her at breakfast every morning, right next to his at the head of the table, and asked about her dreams. Serena hosted parties twice a week, sometimes 3. Women in silk dresses that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Men in tailored suits discussing stocks and vacation homes. They drank champagne on the terrace and never asked where Amara was. When they did see her, crossing the hallway in her faded school uniform, the hem coming loose, shoes scuffed, Serena would place a hand on Amara's shoulder with performative tenderness and say, "This is the charity case I've taken in. Poor dear lost everything. Bless her heart." Her fingers would dig in just slightly, a warning disguised as affection. The guests would nod knowingly. They'd say, "How generous of you, Serena. How noble. Not everyone would open their home like this." Amara learned to stay in her room. She learned which floorboards creaked, which hallways to avoid during party hours. She did her homework by the flickering lamp and tried not to think about the library downstairs, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and leather chairs where Mr. Whitmore used to read to her. On a Thursday morning in late September, when the air had just started to cool and leaves were beginning to turn, Serena called Amara into the sitting room. Her diamond bracelet was missing, the expensive one, the one she wore to impress other wealthy women. She stood with her arms crossed, her mouth a tight line of barely controlled rage. "Where is it?" Amara blinked, confused. "I don't know." "Don't lie to me." Serena's voice was sharp enough to cut. "You were in my room yesterday. Marcus saw you." Marcus, the butler who'd worked for Mr. Whitmore for 15 years, stood near the doorway. He didn't meet Amara's eyes. His hands were clasped in front of him, knuckles white. "I wasn't in your room," Amara said. Her hands were shaking, betraying her fear. "I don't take things. I've never taken anything." Serena stepped closer, invading her space, using her height to intimidate. "You're a liar and a thief, just like your mother. She was a disappointment, too." Amara's chest tightened, like someone had wrapped a band around her ribs and was pulling. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to defend her mother's memory. She didn't either. She looked at the polished floor and said nothing, because she'd learned that silence was sometimes the only protection she had. Serena grabbed Amara's arm, her nails digging into skin hard enough to leave marks. "Get out! Get out of my house!" She dragged Amara through the hallway like she was hauling garbage, past the maids who suddenly found the wallpaper fascinating, past the gardener who pretended to check his phone with intense concentration, out the front door where morning light made everything look deceptively beautiful, down the marble steps, one after another. Amara's small backpack hit the driveway with a thud. Her school books spilled onto the stone, math homework, a library book about birds, a pencil case shaped like a cat. "You're not welcome here," Serena announced loudly, making sure her voice carried across the lawn to the neighbors' houses. The gate security guard watched from his post, frozen. A neighbor in a silver sedan slowed at the corner, window rolling down slightly. "Ungrateful little thief, after everything I've done for you." The iron gates clanged shut with a sound like a judge's gavel. Amara sat on the curb. The stone was cold and rough. She pulled her knees to her chest, making herself as small as possible. Cars passed, luxury sedans, SUVs with tinted windows, a sports car that probably cost more than most houses. No one stopped. Some slowed to look. Most didn't even do that. She walked for an hour, maybe more. The wealthy neighborhood with its manicured lawns and security cameras gave way to busy streets, office towers made of glass and steel that reflected the sky, traffic lights changing in endless cycles, people in business clothes rushing past, earbuds in, eyes forward, existing in their own private worlds. She asked a woman outside a cafe with outdoor seating if she could use a phone. The woman looked at her dirt-streaked uniform and kept walking, clutching her purse a little tighter. By evening, as streetlights began to flicker on, Amara reached the city center. The metro station glowed with harsh fluorescent light that made everything look flat and unreal. She sat on the bench near the entrance, watching the rhythm of the city. People coming, people going, no one staying. Commuters streamed past like water around a stone. A security guard with a tired face tapped her shoulder at midnight. "You can't sleep here. Move along." She moved to a bus stop, then a park where the benches were divided by armrests to prevent exactly what she was trying to do, then an alley behind a closed restaurant that smelled like rotting food and urine. The city was loud even at night. Sirens wailing, voices arguing in languages she didn't understand, the constant hum of delivery trucks making their rounds. The next morning, hungry and cold, Amara found a community shelter on the east side. The building was gray concrete with bars on the windows. The woman at the desk gave her a meal voucher without asking questions and a cot in a room with 12 other kids. The room smelled like sweat and unwashed clothes. A boy with a scar on his chin and eyes that had seen too much laughed when she said she used to live in a mansion. "Sure you did," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "And I'm a prince from a magical kingdom." Amara didn't argue. She ate her soup, watery vegetable something, in silence, sitting at the corner of a crowded table. She thought about the envelope constantly, the one Mr. Whitmore had given her the week before he died, pressing it into her hands with trembling fingers. He had made her promise.
Open this on your 10th birthday, not before. It's important, Amara. Promise me." She'd tucked it into the bottom of her backpack, into a zippered pocket she never used. It was still there, sealed with red wax. She checked every night to make sure, running her fingers over it in the dark like a talisman. Her birthday was 3 weeks away, 21 days. She left the shelter after 4 days. The older kids stole food from the younger ones. The lights never turned off, just dimmed slightly. She couldn't sleep with all the coughing, the crying, the sounds of nightmares. She walked back to the streets and found a market near the industrial district where warehouses gave way to informal vendors. People sold vegetables and used clothes from metal stalls that rattled when trucks passed. A woman with silver braids and a warm smile noticed her standing near a pile of oranges. "You hungry, baby?" Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. The woman's name was Mama Zola. She sold fruit from a wooden cart that had been painted bright yellow years ago, now faded and chipped. She gave Amara an orange and a piece of bread wrapped in wax paper. The orange was sweet, the best thing Amara had tasted in days. "You got people?" "No." Mama Zola studied her with eyes that had seen all kinds of hardship and somehow remained kind. "You smart?" "Yes." "Then you'll survive. Smart ones always do." She handed Amara a rag. "Help me clean the cart. I'll feed you. Can't pay you money, but I can keep you fed." For 2 weeks, Amara worked for Mama Zola. She wiped down crates that smelled like earth. She stacked oranges in perfect pyramids. She learned which customers paid fairly and which tried to steal, distracting with conversation while their hands moved. Mama Zola let her sleep behind the cart at night, protected from the wind. She gave her a blanket that smelled like cinnamon and wood smoke and told her stories about growing up in a village far away where the stars were so bright they looked like spilled sugar. One evening, as the market was closing and vendors were packing up, a woman in a pressed blouse approached. She wore heels that clicked against the pavement and carried a leather purse with gold hardware. Her makeup was perfect. "You need work?" she asked Amara, her smile bright and friendly. Amara glanced at Mama Zola, who was serving a customer buying mangoes. "I run a hotel," the woman said. "Nice place. I need someone to clean rooms. I'll pay you, give you a place to sleep, 3 meals a day. Better than this, surely." Amara hesitated. The woman's smile widened. "It's better than the streets, isn't it? Safe? Warm? You look like a smart girl. Don't you want something better?" The next morning, after saying a tearful goodbye to Mama Zola, who pressed extra bread into her hands, Amara followed the woman, Mrs. Okonkwo, to a 3-story building near the warehouse district. The neighborhood was industrial, loud with trucks and machinery. The lobby smelled like bleach and cigarettes and something else, something sour she couldn't identify. Mrs. Okonkwo handed her a mop and a bucket. "Start with the bathrooms on the 2nd floor. You'll sleep in the storage room. I'll keep your belongings safe." Her smile was different now, harder. She held out her hand expectantly. Amara reluctantly gave her the backpack. The envelope was inside, hidden in the zippered pocket. The work was endless and brutal. Toilets stained with things she didn't want to think about, floors covered in mysterious substances, stained sheets that made her stomach turn. Her hands cracked and bled from the harsh chemicals. Mrs. Okonkwo locked the storage room at night. There was no window, just a cot with a mattress that smelled like mildew and a bare bulb that buzzed constantly. The other workers were older, women with hollow eyes who whispered to each other in languages Amara didn't understand, but didn't talk to her, didn't meet her eyes, as if acknowledging her would make their own situations more real. One night, 11 days into her captivity, she heard Mrs. Okonkwo on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was muffled but clear enough. "I'll keep the girl until she's used up, then I'll dump her. No one cares about these street kids. No one comes looking." Amara's stomach turned cold. Ice spread through her veins. She waited 3 days, planning carefully. On Saturday night, Mrs. Okonkwo drank whiskey in her office like she did every weekend and fell asleep at her desk, her snoring echoing through the thin walls. Amara crept down the hallway, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The office door was unlocked. Her backpack sat on a shelf behind boxes of cleaning supplies. She grabbed it, checked the pocket, the envelope was still there, and climbed out the bathroom window onto a fire escape she'd noticed during her first day. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs felt like they would give out. Back through the industrial district, back to the market, back to Mama Zola's cart, which sat empty in the darkness. Mama Zola was sleeping in the covered section behind the cart. She woke when Amara collapsed nearby. She took one look at Amara's bleeding hands and tear-stained face and pulled her close without asking questions. "You're shaking like a leaf." "I need to open it," she whispered through chattering teeth. "The envelope. I need to open it now." "Then open it, baby. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." It was her 10th birthday. Midnight had just passed. Amara sat on the pavement under the amber glow of a street lamp, moths circling above. She tore the seal with trembling fingers. Inside were legal documents, thick paper with official seals, a letter written on cream stationery, a business card. The letter was in Mr. Whitmore's handwriting, the slightly shaky script she remembered from the notes he'd leave on her breakfast plate. "My dearest Amara, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry I couldn't stay longer to protect you. I'm sorry you have to face this world without me, but I need you to know the truth, the whole truth that I should have told you sooner. You are my great niece. Your mother was my niece, Tandiwe. She was brilliant and kind and full of light. She died bringing you into this world, and I spent 2 years searching for you through a system that didn't want to be searched. When I finally found you, I made a promise to her memory and to God. I would keep you safe. I would give you a future. I would give you everything I never gave her. This house is yours. The estate is yours. Every penny, every possession, everything I have accumulated in my 78 years is yours. The woman claiming to be family is a liar. Her name is Serena Cole. She was my housekeeper. I fired her 5 years ago for theft. She was stealing jewelry and selling it. If she's in my house, if she's claiming guardianship, she's committing fraud. Call attorney Kwame Mensah immediately. He has the will. He has the proof. He has everything you need. Don't let anyone take what's yours. Don't let anyone make you feel small. You were never unwanted, my dear child. You were always loved. You were my greatest joy in those final years." Amara's hands shook so badly she could hardly hold the paper. Tears fell, blurring the ink. Mama Zola read over her shoulder, her breath catching. "Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy." "I need a phone," Amara said, her voice stronger now, steadier. "I need to call him." Mama Zola borrowed one from a vendor who worked the early morning shift, a man who sold coffee from a cart. Amara dialed the number on the business card with fingers that felt clumsy. A man answered on the third ring, his voice professional but tired. "Mensah Law Offices?"
"My name is Amara Whitmore," she said. Her voice cracked on her own name. "I need help. Mr. Whitmore told me to call you." There was a long pause, then quietly, "Amara? Amara Whitmore?" "Yes. Where are you? Are you safe? Tell me where you are right now." 2 hours later, as dawn broke pink and gold over the city, a black car pulled up to the market. Attorney Kwame Mensah stepped out. He was tall, gray-haired, distinguished in a pressed suit despite the early hour. He carried a briefcase that looked expensive. He looked at Amara, dirty, thin, her uniform torn, and his face went pale, his eyes filled with tears. "My God, I thought you were dead. I thought I'd failed you." "She told you I was dead?" "She told me you ran away 3 weeks ago, that she searched everywhere, filed police reports. She cried in my office. I believed her." His voice broke. I'm so sorry. I should have looked harder. I should have known. He made phone calls standing in the street, police, child services, a detective he knew personally. By the time the sun was fully up, they were driving to the Whitmore estate in his car. Amara sat in the back seat watching the city change, neighborhoods shifting from poor to wealthy, the buildings getting taller and cleaner. The mansion was lit up like a celebration. Music drifted from the open terrace doors, jazz, something smooth and expensive. Serena was hosting another party, her biggest one yet. Women in sequined gowns that sparkled like stars, men in tuxedos with cufflinks that caught the light, champagne glasses glinting under the crystal chandeliers that had been in the family for generations. Attorney Mensah walked in first through the front entrance. 2 police officers followed, their uniforms a stark contrast to the formal wear. Amara stood behind them, her heart pounding so hard she felt dizzy. Her dirty clothes, her tangled hair, she looked like an intruder in what should have been her own home. The music stopped abruptly. Someone had cut the sound system. Serena stood near the marble fireplace, a glass of champagne in her hand, mid-laugh at something a man in a tuxedo had said. Her smile faded when she saw Mensah. It vanished completely when she saw Amara. The color drained from her face. "What is this? What's going on?" Attorney Mensah opened his briefcase with deliberate calm. "This is the reading of Elias Whitmore's last will and testament." The guests murmured, confused. Someone set down their glass. A woman in silver whispered to her companion. Mensah read aloud, his voice carrying through the room. "I, Elias Whitmore, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate, including the Whitmore Mansion, all financial assets, investments, and holdings valued at $40 million to my great-niece, Amara Thandiwe Whitmore, sole heir and beneficiary." Serena's glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the marble floor, champagne spreading like gold. "That's impossible. That's a lie. She's nobody. She's just some street kid I was helping out of charity." Mensah pulled out a folder, removed documents with official seals. "DNA test, conducted 3 years ago when Elias located Amara. Amara is the biological daughter of Thandiwe Whitmore, Elias's niece. She is his only living heir, the only family he had left." A woman in silver dress gasped audibly. A man near the door whispered urgently to his wife. People started backing away from Serena. Serena's voice rose to a shriek. "This is a mistake. I'm family. I've been taking care of her. I've been managing this estate. I have documents." "You're not family," Mensah said coldly. "You're Serena Cole. Elias fired you in December 2020 for embezzlement. You forged documents claiming kinship after his death. You've been stealing from this estate for 3 months, hosting parties with stolen money, wearing jewelry you stole, living a life that was never yours." The officers stepped forward in unison, Serena back toward the fireplace, her heel catching on the Persian rug. "You can't do this! You can't do this to me!" "Serena Cole, you're under arrest for fraud, theft, forgery, and child endangerment," one officer said, his voice flat and official. They handcuffed her in front of everyone. The metal clicked shut. Serena screamed, struggling, her careful composure completely shattered. "She's lying! She's just a kid! She doesn't deserve this! She's nothing! She's nobody!" They let her out through the same doors she'd thrown Amara out of months before. The door closed behind them. The house fell into shocked silence. 70 people, and no one made a sound. Amara stood in the center of the room, surrounded by wealth and strangers. The guests stared. Some looked ashamed, eyes downcast. Others looked away, suddenly fascinated by the artwork. Slowly, like water draining, they began to leave, making excuses, checking phones, remembering other appointments. No one said goodbye. No one apologized. Within 20 minutes, the house was empty except for the staff. Marcus, the butler, approached slowly. His eyes were red and swollen. He'd been crying. "Miss Amara, I'm so deeply sorry.
I was afraid. She threatened to fire all of us. She said she'd make sure we never worked again. But that's no excuse. I should have protected you. I failed Mr. Whitmore. I failed you." Amara looked at him, this man who'd worked in this house longer than she'd been alive. "Did you see her take the bracelet?" He nodded miserably. "Then you knew she lied about me." "Yes." His voice was barely a whisper. Amara didn't yell, she didn't cry, she was too tired for anger. She just said, "Don't lie for anyone again. Not for me, not for anyone. Promise me." "I promise. I swear on my life, I promise." Over the next 3 months, the house changed in ways both subtle and profound. Serena's so-called friends disappeared from society pages, avoiding scandal by association.
Mrs. Okonkwo's hotel was raided after Amara's story went public, after a reporter from the local news picked it up. She was arrested for labor trafficking. The workers she'd exploited, including 3 other children, testified against her. She got 15 years. Amara invited Mama Zola to the mansion on a sunny afternoon. The older woman walked through the front door with tears streaming down her face, touching the walls like she couldn't believe they were real. Amara set her up with a fruit stand outside the estate gates in a perfect spot with high foot traffic and gave her the capital to expand, enough to hire help, to buy inventory, to finally rest. Mama Zola cried so hard she couldn't speak, just held Amara and rocked her like a child. "You didn't have to do this, baby," she finally managed. "You kept me alive when no one else cared," Amara said. "Now I'm keeping you safe. That's what family does." She converted the mansion's east wing, 12 rooms that had sat unused, into a shelter for homeless children. She worked with attorney Mensa to establish the Whitmore Foundation, dedicated to finding and protecting vulnerable children. Marcus stayed on as head of staff. He taught Amara how to manage the household, going over budgets and schedules, how to read contracts so no one could cheat her, how to protect what was hers while staying true to who she was. But she was still 10, still a child. She still played homework at the big dining table where Mr. Whitmore used to sit, Marcus helping with math problems. She still played in the garden, climbing trees and collecting stones. She still woke up some nights thinking she was back in the storage room, gasping in the dark until she remembered where she was. One evening in December, as the first snow began to fall, she stood at the front door, the same marble threshold where Serena had thrown her out like garbage. She placed her hand on the brass handle. It was cold and solid and real. She opened the door herself this time, slowly, deliberately, on her own terms. A new child had arrived at the shelter that afternoon, a girl named Kaya, 8 years old, recently orphaned after her grandmother died. She sat in the living room, silent and scared, clutching a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. Amara sat beside her on the couch, not too close, giving her space. "I know you're afraid." The girl didn't answer, didn't even look up. "I was too," Amara said softly. "I was so scared I thought I'd break, but you're safe now. This is a real place, real safety, and you're not alone. You'll never be alone again." That night, after making sure Kaya was settled, Amara sat in Mr. Whitmore's study. His letter lay on the desk where she kept it, protected in a frame now. She traced the words with her finger, words she'd read 100 times but still needed to see. "You were never unwanted. You were always loved." She folded her hands in her lap. Outside, the city lights glowed against the dark sky, warm and constant. Inside, the house was warm. The heating system hummed softly. She could hear children's voices from the east wing, laughter, someone singing. For the first time in months, Amara felt like she could breathe without her chest hurting. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She wasn't just safe. She was home, and she was making sure other children found their way home too.